So now is the time that the system of I know a guy political patronage in Rhode Island is over. In the front page journal article of the Providence Journal on Monday, July 18th, 2022, the old boy network of political patronage was exposed. I'd known about and complained about this system for years, but to no avail. To no one, it seemed, wants to rock the boat, because the political stranglehold by the legislative leadership on these patronage dollars is so strong. What I did not know until reading the article in the Journal is how entrenched my opponent is in the system. The article reveals that $75,000 in legislative grants are in Senator Goodwin's name alone, the #1 abuser of Rhode Island taxpayer dollars. Let me tell you how I first learned about legislative grants. Over 20 years ago, I was working on a community project and sitting in on a board meeting and looking at the budget. There was this large grant that came from the state of Rhode Island. And I asked about it, and they said, oh, that's a state grant. And I go, okay. And for 2 years, that grant was there. And then people started expressing some concern in the third year. They said, we're not sure if we're going to get the grant again this year. And I asked why. And they said, well, our senator used to be in favor with the leadership, but there's been a change, and the senator is no longer in good relationships with the leadership, and that grant may go away. And I was sitting there thinking all this time, we got the grant because we were doing this great program, and it was because of merit. And it turned out it had nothing to do with merit. It had everything to do with who knew who. As a leader in the nonprofit world in Rhode Island, I remember being in conversations with a number of other nonprofit leaders. We never did anything with legislative grants in our organization, but a number of people I worked with and respected did. And I remember talking to them at that point saying, I'm really concerned about this system because it's political patronage and it's not based on merit. And almost to a person they said, shh, don't say a word, because we know it's corrupt and we know it's a bad system, but we rely on those grants. So people keep quiet. And it's the same way with many political leaders. They get these grants, they're able to take the money home, and nobody wants to talk about it. I know today I'm the skunk at the picnic. I'm talking about a system that everybody knows needs to change, but nobody wants to talk about it. It's time to talk about it. Let's be clear. The recipients of these grants are often worthy organizations helping some of Rhode Island's most vulnerable residents. Many of these organizations are worthy of state funding. In my proposal, as detailed in a moment, these organizations will still be able to apply for support from the legislature, but in an open and apparent way. Let's face it, legislative grants exist for one purpose. They exist to give the leaders of the legislature ironclad control over legislators. They are doing this with taxpayer dollars, not with their money, but doing it with taxpayer dollars. The process is murky at best. Many Rhode Islanders don't even know about the program, and that's by intent. It's set up to help the legislator bring home the bacon, table scraps to woo votes. In return, the legislator owes leadership. My proposal, I will draft legislation early in the session that will end the current system of legislative grants immediately, create a new transparent and fair system that will be open to any Rhode Island nonprofit, including faith-based nonprofits, if the purpose is for humanitarian purposes. It will operate by a commission of community and legislative representatives, offer small grants of less than $1,000 and larger grants of over $1,000 with guidelines appropriate to the size of the grant. Awards will be based on the quality of the proposal, not on how close your organization is to a political person that you know. I invite my opponent, I challenge my opponent to join me in taking my vote is not for sale pledge. And here's that pledge. I pledge not to engage in the current process of legislative grants and to work for a more open, transparent, and fair system of allocating money to nonprofits for humane purposes and humanitarian purposes. I pledge to work with you if you are a nonprofit currently getting state grant money through the legislative grant process. I pledge to work with you to quickly create a new system of grants that will be open and transparent and fair. I will further pledge to work with you to help as I can in fundraising efforts to help you make more of an impact on the lives of many more Rhode Islanders. Thank you. Glad to take any questions.